Hello YouTube, Robin Hood Bricks here, and today I'm supposed to be doing a city update because it's Monday, but basically my heart just isn't in it today, and that's just because I started my bumper car ride on Friday, and it's going really well, and I'm really excited about it, and I kind of want to do part 2 on that, so yeah, that's what I'm going to do today. Yes, this is where I think I'd rather be today, and the project that I'd rather be working on, my work in progress bumper cars, or Dodgems ride, motorised, of course. And if you haven't watched part 1 of this series, I suggest you go back and watch that video first, just done on Friday, the video before this, just because then it will make a lot more sense and you'll see some of the ways we've overcome certain problems already, and I've even outlined some problems that are yet to be bested, and it will make a lot more sense. But also, just for a recap, for those who have had a busy weekend, oh, that's fallen off. This is what we did last time, which is all the mechanism that's going to be hidden underneath that deck. Basically, we've got a very large base plate to give us plenty of room, and that's going to be the table layer. Then we've got this, which will be the ground layer of the fairground itself, so the grass level. So it'll only be going a little bit higher than that when it's all in position. But that gives us plenty of room to have quite an elaborate mechanism where the focus very much has been on reliability rather than complexity, because, well, it just makes it a lot easier to have running for a long period of time. So we've got a motor driving a large gear here, which goes around this circuit, and they're all held in position. And largely speaking, it's a diamond to sort of avoid the studded areas on each of the corners of the deck, being just a crossroads road plate. But to make it a bit more interesting, we've come in to a section here, so it's more like a sort of Pac-Man mouth type shape with this Lego wheel here. And then the chain has 4 rare earth metal magnets attached to it, which will connect to the bumper cars themselves, so when they move around seemingly on their own on the deck. So that's where we got to so far. And one of the major problems that we've overcome, or at least that I've finessed just a little bit since last time, was getting the height right. Because we need to have this completely flat all the way around. So these magnets remain in contact with that deck layer all the time and aren't trying to sort of push it up or pull away from it, and the magnet sort of pulling against the sort of track that it's going on, and maybe causing a sort of derailment or a de-chaining event or whatever you might call that. So in order to get it absolutely even more perfect, I've just made a little change, and it was very subtle in that all of these columns are now 4 bricks and 2 plates, whereas they were 4 bricks, 1 plate and 1 tile. So it's a very subtle change, but we've just gained that tiny little height of the top of the actual studs themselves, but it has made a little difference. So I've changed those, this, and these sort of 4 bits here that support the deck, and now they're in even better contact all of the time. And where I left you last time, rather frustratingly, was with one of these wondrously going around on its merry way, but you were very bitter in a way that I hadn't done it with 4. And the reason why I haven't done it with 4 is because both of the sort of official Lego fridge magnet sets that I'd tried in the development so far were basically too powerful. If you've got a powerful magnet underneath and quite a strong one in one of these, then you can see the power it sort of snaps in place with, and then it's really clinging this base plate together from both sides quite hard, and really providing a lot of resistance. And the main problem with that is, well, not so bad when you've got 1 on, but when you've got 4 going around, it's really, really grinding to drag them, and it's not a good thing at all. So that's part of the reason why I only showed you with 1 going around. It wasn't just me being a bit nasty. So But then it also highlights another major problem, which some of you actually pointed out in the comments, which was how to keep this going the right way. Because when this becomes an actual bumper car or a Dodgem, it can't all sort of just be driving backwards because, well, that wouldn't make any sense. They drive forwards, don't they? So we've really got to make sure this is kind of driving and not just being dragged about. And to sort of make the point of what I mean, I've got some arrow tiles here. So if we imagine that this is a bumper car and this is the front, so that's the sort of direction of travel, it's going that way, and we say put it on that part of the track like that, going over there, then you would hope that it would sort of drive around and keep pointing the way that it was going. But as it stands, it pretty much says the way that it was facing in the beginning, which means it's sort of kind of gliding around like this, and it doesn't make any sense at all that it's always pointing kind of in the same direction, like it's blowing in the wind. So that's a problem that these magnets don't allow for. Now, one solution, and a few people suggested this, was kind of have two magnets in quick succession. So the back sort of pinned slightly behind the front, and therefore it kind of drag it round. But that will make our sort of binding issue of these sort of being very firmly held even worse. And what's more, it'll make these bumper cars even bigger and more chunky. And getting one of these bricks into a very nice sort of cool looking bumper car design is going to be hard enough as it is. So the first project of the day is to make some bumper cars that are very sort of streamlined and cool looking and looking very fun. But before we do even that, we need to work out how we can use a magnet that's going to be going the right way all the way around the track and isn't binding on too hard. Okay, I've just put Little Robin and the Circus Ringmaster from Series 2 back onto the deck just because my camera has a real problem focusing on this great big expanse of grey without anything kind of to look at and fix on. So that's why they're there. But back to the magnet clutch problem, which is essentially the magnet holding on far too firmly when it's something like this. I did actually try a great deal of combinations of different magnets because when I bought the ones for the underside, I did buy an array of sizes just to try things out. And I'm really glad I did because a lot of combinations just don't work. They're far too strong. Now, some people pointed out that I didn't need a magnet on both sides, of course, because any sort of ferrous metal would be attracted to a single magnet rather than having an actual pair pulling together. And that's a very good point. But it turns out that the smallest one I bought is actually a really good fit. It really attracts the right amount without being too much. And I've made that even more pronounced by actually mounting it within one of these sort of inverted round kind of tiles in a way. They're often called shoe pieces as well, which will go on the underside of a ride because it's too small to fit onto a brick really and make good contact. So I'm actually going to have it loose within that piece. So that's not actually attached in any way. It will just be within there. And you can see how tiny it is. It's absolutely minuscule. So it shows really by comparison why the great big hulking magnet that's in here is too strong when this does the job really well. Now some people asked what the size of magnets I was using were. And this one is 4mm by 1mm deep cylinder. And the ones inside that were on here are 6mm diameter and 6mm tall. And you could probably get one slightly smaller than that, if anything. So that is there. So that is the magnet that we're going to have being pulled around. So all I need to do is sandwich that in this kind of cavity in that piece and between some other pieces. And the pieces I'm going to use to do the sandwiching are a pair of wheels with the tyres removed and some plates. So if I do that, then it is very safely held in there. It's not going anywhere. You can kind of hear it rattling just a little bit. But the wheels are to solve the second problem of it changing direction. So if that kind of snaps that, I think that this, especially when part of a much bigger bumper car, is going to sort of cause the thing to sort of be dragged around because this is slightly more forward than the central axle of these wheels, and it will kind of be a sort of turning effect that will get dragged behind it. So that doesn't make a lot of sense unless I show you. So what I'm going to do is take the arrows off these and show that it's going that way. And I'm going to get a second one as well. And let's find another magnet. There's one. And then we'll do a bit of a demo. Now, bear in mind that these aren't being very well held to the ground because they're a bit light. You can see how light they are. They're just, you know, bouncing around. But hopefully this will do a lot better, even in this sort of format, than the ones before. So that's going that way at the moment. That's going that way. Let's see if they turn when I turn it on. Huh? I mean, it's not always going 100% straight, but it is kind of rectifying. And that's partially because the weight of these, as they currently stand, is too light. So the wheels aren't actually being pushed into the ground at all. So with a bit more weight on that, I think it will make it a little less wavy. But you can kind of see they're roughly going in the right direction. And that'll only get better as we add a bumper car around them. So I think that solves both problems of the magnet connection, of which we can easily drag 4 around using this motor, and it also means that they're actually pointing the right way as well. Right, so I'm going to design now the bumper car, one of them, and then we can make more of them in a variety of colours. Now, for the bumper cars themselves, I think the priority is that we get a lot of colour in there. I think it would be really cool if they look kind of swish and look very realistic, but I really want to get that colour in there. So I'm not going to do them all the same or even sort of 2 different colours. I'm going to make each one a completely unique colour. And that does mean that it kind of limits some of the more rare pieces, you know, which ones you can use, because not all parts are available in all colours, of course. So that did impact the design process. And for inspiration, I did look at the Friends set 41133, Amusement Park bumper cars. And I don't really like those bumper cars too much. I think we can do better than that, so I didn't use that for any inspiration. But I did like the Joker bumper car from 2015, which is set 30303, a polybag. And I liked a lot of elements of that because it looked about the right size, really good fun, and had these sort of really sort of big black bumpers all around the bottom, which I really liked. And I thought they looked very realistic for the sort of ride that I remember seeing in real life, and I want to emulate here. And it will mean that they've got a great surface to kind of bump off each other as they're going around my deck. So there we go. I'm going to use these and a similar building technique. So this is all going to be based on a 4x6 plate. And I've already added some colour to this one. So this one's going to be largely white, but with some kind of red accent colours. And it's going to have lights along all the front. I've just added those before showing you, just to speed me up. But first of all, I'm going to focus on the underside and how all of these bumpers are attached, because we kind of want them on both sides and on the front and on the back. But we've also got to incorporate this, of course. So I'll take the arrow back off that and have it pointing the right way. So first of all, I've got one of these plates with the 2 studs on, a normal plate, just in any colour because it won't be seen. And then I can connect that onto the back of that to make a underside there. Now it's really important that the magnet is towards the front of the vehicle where the lights are, because it's going to be dragging, and then the wheels are going to hopefully help keep it going straight like we just covered. So now I need to do all the connections for the bumpers, and they'll be different front and back now because of this different setup. So on the back bumper, we can attach 2 of the headlight bricks, holding onto one of those curved slopes onto those 2 studs there. Similar but different on the front is we're going to have some modified bricks with 1 stud on the side, and we're going to place 1 there and 1 there, either side of our magnet, to basically do the same job as that 1x4 modified tile, so it can hold on to the back of 2 headlight bricks like that. And then we've got a stud there and a stud there, which, miracle of miracles, are exactly the right distance apart to hold them on. So that's the part of the build that I borrowed, or at least the back half of it is the build style that I borrowed from that Joker set. The front is sort of an amended version that allows me to accommodate the magnet, and you can see just the magnet and the wheels are slightly proud, which means it should work really well with a good connection. So there we go, and that makes it a bit more spinny as well, of course, because it's not you know, got a really broad base. Right, so then for the main body itself, I've sort of gone away from the Joker version now because I wanted it to be a bit more sleek, and I'm using some of these sort of quarter circle tiles just to give it a bit of an edge, and then one of those sort of double cheese wedge pieces at the front there, and then some tiles 1x2, and then some of these lovely sort of slatted slope pieces next, and they're one of the ones that isn't available in every colour under the sun, but I really like the fact you can see the accent colour of the red kind of through those slat holes there. And to make loads of these, because I'm going to be making 5 of these today, all in different colour schemes, I've really had to go around Brick Nottingham pretty much plundering loads of different builds that are already in the city or waiting to be included in the city to get all the right pieces and all the right colours. So certain elements of Brick Nottingham are becoming a bit like Swiss cheese, where they've got loads of holes in them where I've pilfered all these bricks. So I'm sure lots of you do the same. When you need something that's already in something else, you just borrow it, and then I'll buy another one and replace it in the original thing that I took it from. So another thing that I want to do is add one of these modified bricks to the back that's got a clip on, and that is so we can hold a very long aerial piece. So it's kind of got one of those things where it actually in real life gets its power from, the sort of power cable. And then on the back, I'm just going to use some more curved slopes with some clips in the accent colour. So we've got a very sleek, I think, looking bumper car with very big black bumpers. So then the final pieces are a spoiler, which is the other thing that that Joker one had that I really quite liked, in black. And then I've got these in grey, the really long one, like that. Now, in real life, these aerials kind of connect to a grid of electric wires, and that's what powers the cars. I'm not going to have that grid because I think it will be too kind of blocking of our view of what's going on. So I really want that to be open, but it's still important to have these so they look like bumper cars. But I hope you agree that that looks pretty good. So we've got one in white with a red accent. Move these guys back because I'm going to be bringing on the others. Then I've also got a lime one with a yellow accent. Very good. I've also got a yellow one with a blue accent. Colourful. I've got a bright red one with kind of a black accent. Nice. And last but not least, I've got a blue one with a white accent colour. And just showing you all of these makes me realise rather that I've put this spoiler on different direction to all the others. And I know I'll get comments if I don't sort that out, so I'll do that now. But I think you'll agree that these are incredibly colourful altogether. And I think they look very kind of like they could be bashing and bumping off each other as well on this course. Now, you might be thinking, why have I got 5 of these things when you've only got 4 magnets? Well, I was going to have one in that bottom corner, sort of here as we've been looking at it, that bottom left corner, just sort of parked up. And that would mean that somebody else who wanted to go on the ride could basically join in. But since then, I've had an even better idea from one of my subscribers who in the last part made the suggestion I have another one just kind of going round and round in a loop all on its own. And I thought, oh, that's quite a good idea. Maybe I'll do that. So we'll have 4 on the main loop and 1 kind of on its own going, well, a bit wrong. Now, before I do all that, I think what I really need to do is show you the first 4 in action, because that's what you've been waiting for since Friday. I've very cruelly kept you waiting. So if we bring back the scene and we put 4 of these in position, then we can hopefully see that the kind of have to search for these magnets. Then we can hopefully see the thing working. Where are they? There's one. And is there one in there? Yep, there's one there. Hopefully we can see them working and see that they are sort of continually pointing the right direction as they go around, because that's the most important bit. And I'll just pin our deck in position so it doesn't move, which it shouldn't do, but you know, better safe than sorry. Now, things to look out for is obviously them pointing the right way as they're going around with a bit of swishing, but also that they should actually kind of look like they're going to touch, or even touch each other and sort of bash each other a little as they're going around. And then when you're looking at it without staring too much, hopefully it looks kind of like a natural scene rather than just four things going around in a circle. And that was the reason why we did that sort of odd bit in the track and tried to make it as interestingly shaped as possible. So here we go. Inaugural video run. I mean, admittedly, I have tested this myself, but first run for you guys. Here we go. So the first thing is, they are all going around. They aren't dragging. The motor isn't complaining at all because of the power of the magnets. The clutch power holding together is just right. Secondly, they are all facing forwards. They kind of turn the corner. They do sort of rock a bit afterwards, which is very realistic, I think. They sort of shake a little bit. They aren't, completely rigid. They look quite natural, if you ask me, going around these corners. But we've got none of them going backwards or completely sideways or anything like that. It all looks rather fantastic. And then what I did, which I haven't shown you, is I changed the numbers of links in between the chain positions, in between the magnet ones and the next magnet one, and I sort of changed those so there's either less or more to enable these to actually come into contact with each other, but not too fatally. And what I mean by that is, if we watch this one, it just glances that one, and then if we watch that one, it actually hits here. So let's watch these three come around again. That one's going to glance, and then that one's going to hit. And then if we go to this corner as well, you'll see that there's another sort of near miss between these two, but then an actual collision between these two, and that one hits the sort of tail of the yellow one out a little bit. So that hits the yellow one there, and it hits the yellow one there to really create an actual bit of action. Now, I could arguably get a bit more aggressive and really have them all smashing into each other a bit more, but then it's going to become less reliable, and I want this to work really well for long periods of time while I'm filming and so on. But I think that is actual bumping action over here between yellow and blue as we've currently got it set up. And I think that is success. I mean, that's what we were aiming for, surely. So I'm incredibly happy with how that looks. And you can just tell from the period we've been running this that it is reliable. Nothing's gone wrong. Yeah, I couldn't be happier. I think this is absolutely brilliant. And these things look really swish as well. Yeah, excellent. Right, so car number 5, the one we built together, this white one, we've got a lot of space down here. Now, I had a very late suggestion, which was that we had one right in the middle, just kind of spinning on the spot like this. And there really isn't much room without doing a massive overhaul. And I had planned to do kind of one just like parked up in this corner over here. But I do still have quite a big space in this corner. So what I thought was I could have one kind of spinning on the spot over here. And I think that looked really good. Now, it won't just sort of spin on the spot because of the wheels. I'm going to have to make it go in a very, very small circle. And then it should just sort of drive like this. And then maybe it'll kind of glance off one of these as they go past, if I position it correctly. And then to make it even more sort of random, all these are currently going in kind of a clockwise loop. But I'll have this one, well, also running in a clockwise loop, I suppose, but it will actually be going kind of against the grain for this bit, because in this bit they're going at the front, they're going kind of right to left. This one will be going kind of left to right, and it'll be kind of swinging like that in front of them. And I think that will make it look even more random when we've got two sort of going in opposite directions. So hopefully that will work. But to do this, I'm going to need to do kind of a second setup on the underneath. Trying to lift that off with all of those attached in this section. And for that, I'm probably going to need a second motor. And that's because, well, to link it up with any of these gears on the inside, it's going to be really messy and mess with what I've already done. But also, well, the belt's kind of in the way of linking anything out here with anything in there. So I think what's a lot easier is if I just have a second motor here powering kind of a second loop there. So let's do that. Okay, so this will use a second motor, but I think it's going to otherwise share a lot of the sort of ideas that are in this drive wheel to do pretty much the same thing. So it should be a lot more simple to do. So I'm just going to use one of these Technic bricks as a very firm base, kind of like the other sort of firm bases we've used so far. And then I'm just going to add some Technic brick kind of sides to another setup like that. And just so there's some holes for the axle to go in on the bottom, I'm actually just going to put a Technic plate across there as well. And that will mean that I can have a second motor here with a 5 long axle, and that can go in here, but I'm going to have to add a second worm gear. So for those who didn't see the worm gear last time, that's what they look like. So I'm just going to have to hold that kind of while I thread this through. There we go. Oh, golly, that's tight. Maybe I should have done this in one go before, but there we go. Right, it's in now. So there we go. So now we've got a motor with a worm gear, and this is why I moved the motor over here, just so I could basically link this up with the same motor. So if we try that, we'll see the normal chain move, but also our new worm gear. There we go. Very good. And then I just need another conversion to a vertical gear. So all I've got is a axle piece here with a spacer and one of those small 8-tooth gears, and I can kind of drop that in there, and that will mesh with the worm gear, as you can see. So give that a quick blast. There we go. And that means, because we've got the same ratios as the other one, it's all going to be going the same speed, which is a lot more realistic. Then I've got a Technic plate 4 long 4x2 and another one of those sort of leveling round tiles that I've been using. So that is exactly the same setup. Well, slightly different shaped, but same sort of vibe as the one we did before. And then I can have another large gear on here. Now we don't need a chain this time because, well, this is going to be the entire loop of the track, so to speak. So what I could do is attach one of these magnets that we've used already, the 6mm by 6mm one, to here. And what I did when I was testing this, when I was first doing it, was actually use blue tack, which, if you don't know, is kind of a reusable adhesive putty sort of stuff that you hang up posters with and so on. You may call it something different in your part of the world. But I used one of those just to temporarily fix it. Fix one of these magnets to the kind of rim, kind of in between two of these axle holes here on this flat bit, and then have that going around. And that worked really well. So I thought, yeah, cool, I'll use Craggle and glue one on just to make it a bit more permanent. But then I realised, well, why waste one of my very useful large gears that aren't cheap when I could use, well, any round piece really that's got an axle hole at the centre or an axle cross, and glue the magnet to that instead. So I kind of looked through my limited number of pieces, and I thought, well, this bright orange steering wheel from Technic, in fact, it's not from Technic, this one's from a Power Miners set. In fact, it's unique to a Power Miners set, 8956 Stone Chopper from 2009. I could use one of these to attach the magnet to, so that's what I've done with a bit of super glue. I've just glued it on there, and that means that when this is attached, let's do that, it goes in the circle that we want, which is kind of going in the opposite direction at the front when they're coming most close together, like we said. So that is exactly the same height as all the others, so should mesh well with the deck surface, and it's away from the corner where we've got the studs as well. So let's give this a test with the white bumper car on there, and we'll see how it looks. Okay, so here's the setup with just 4 going around, as we had before. And I've added just a few more tiles here to kind of represent a continuation of the edge, because this one's going to be going quite near the edge. And I'm just going to find its magnet. There we go. It's clipped on. It's quite fun doing that. And now this one should turn in a little, well, another clockwise circle, but going the opposite direction at the nearest point to the rest. So let's see how that goes. Oh, that's brilliant. I mean, this person is going to be getting very dizzy. Maybe that's what they've gone on the ride for. Oh, and it hit the yellow one. That's good. Yeah, so maybe they're going on to get really dizzy, and that's how they like to do it. Or maybe they've actually got in a broken bumper car and they don't want to be going round and round in circles, but, you know, nonetheless are. Or it might be just because there's so many other bumper cars going around this track that they're finding a really difficult job trying to sort of find a place to safely go. So they're kind of permanently in dodge mode. But that looks absolutely fantastic. And I think that is a much better idea, having seen that now working, than just having the fifth car kind of parked up on one side. So a very big bedoing to the subscriber who suggested that. Thank you very much indeed. That's what I really like about this channel, is getting all of your suggestions and incorporating them makes my builds even better, would you believe? Yes. So let's look at that a bit more. I really like that. All this shoving down here between red and yellow is really quite good. And with yellow actually being hit into white now and then, I think that makes it even better. Brilliant. Right, I think one thing that will make this scene even more fun is actually having minifigures in these cars. So that's what I'm going to do next. And we'll see if we can do some terrified faces. Alright, so I've added some minifigures to kind of make a story for this ride. And if we start with the red one, I thought the red one might be the most aggressive driver. And he's picked red because, it's such a bold colour. And I've put him in a Dodge t-shirt underneath his jacket, and he's got shades on, and he's taking it very seriously because he's got gritted teeth and long hair and so on. So I thought he would be chasing somebody. So that's the position that's going to be doing most of the bashing. And the poor victim of all his bashing is this old lady. So he's being very cruel. But she looks very startled and a bit bullied, really. And she's in her nice old cardigan with grey hair and a bun and all the rest of it. So she is being pestered in yellow. And then blue, having got out of the way of the aggressive guy, we've got a nice young lady here whose hair's now been straightened in blue, and she's sort of just escaped all of that melee. And then right over the other side in lime, we've got somebody who's keeping track of what's going on and avoiding all of the bumping very well. So she's probably more of a Dodgems driver than a bumper car driver, if you see what I mean. And then for the guy who's stuck, I've got this guy in his rather cool t-shirt and jacket combo, but he's got a face that looks like ah! And that's either because he can't get in, like we said, and can't sort of get away from this corner, or because he's got a bit of a malfunction on his bumper car. But either way, we'll see him with that face going around and around. And I thought I'd do this slightly lower angle so we could see it sort of more close up and personal. So let's have a look. I mean, that just looks great if you ask me. We've got action. We've got a bit of calamity type action. We've got a bit of panic type action over here. We've got so much colour going around. And we haven't even built the structure yet. And I'm going to have full sides and a kind of pillars and all sorts of things and a ticket booth and what have you. So, yeah, it's going to get even better from here. I think we're going to have to do that as a part 3. Just because all of this shenanigans does take a while. I mean, just finding all of the pieces for these bumper cars took me an absolute age because I wanted them to all be perfect and not have the wrong colours in for now as a sort of holding position. And I think it was worth it because this scene is just perfect. His face at the front here, his face is just brilliant. So, yeah, I think that's a real success. But do tell me what you think. I'd be really interested. And if you can come up with any improvements like the one we had for this corner over here, then that will be very gratefully received indeed. Great. So I do hope that was worth the wait, and you forgive me for not having the proper cars going around last time. It does take quite a while to do what looks like a very sort of simple 20-minute video sometimes to get all the mechanics absolutely perfect. Not to mention breaking for glue to set and all the rest of it. And it's a shame I've had to use glue and things like that in a ride. I'd rather keep it pure Lego like some of my comments have suggested, but there just is no easy way of making it work this well, and I think that is my priority for the fairground. So anyway, as always, thank you very much for watching. It is appreciated. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe for more awesome LEGO videos. And if you value this channel, there are many ways in which you can support it. Do check out the links in the description below. And next time on Robin Hood Bricks, we will pause for our haul on Wednesday. I'm not going to do part 3 then, but then I think we will do part 3 of this build, just because it's so fantastic, on Friday. And that will be a proper Fairground Friday, as opposed to a Fairground for Monday. But for those of you who aren't into these rides so much, do forgive me, but I really can't help myself. I've really just got to keep going with this, I think, until it's done. So until then, see you!